Hello, this is Mark Jenner of Biomass Rules, and I wanted to continue our journey to transposing different ways to transpose data in Excel using this consumer price index data from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. This last time we just kind of talked about this idea of using different techniques. Um, the three I want to cover are the just manually cutting and pasting or dragging and dropping data around, moving around manually. I want to show you how to do it with this very powerful index match function. Two functions together nested in a thing that allow a very strategic the machine, the coding to pick up the target and put it where you want it. Um, And so that's very powerful. And then we're going to look at VLOOKUP using the same kind of format. But all three ways accomplish the same thing. There's lots of ways to transform data. So what that means is we got this data that came with months in the columns and years in the rows. We're going to transpose it into years in the columns and months in the rows. And the goal, the end goal then is to get pretty much a single vertical column of data that goes from the earliest month, January 2000, to the latest month, which is April, most recent month, really, April of 2025, right? So to do that, we've got our data set here. This is what we cleaned up last in the last lesson. And recall that, the years are brought in, even though they look like numbers, they're brought in as text, right? And we can convert them, but we're not going to do that right now. Right now, it works for us just to have them be text. And so we got months that we can't add and years that we can't add. But so to get this started, I want to add a sheet. And over here on the right of this sheet row is a plus sign. If you click on that, it adds a new sheet. Um, and so now that I've added that new sheet, I'm going to go back to my data and highlight everything. The data, the CPI data, plus the rows and columns. I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to come back to my new sheet and put it in cell A1 and right click again. And I got all these options. If I go to this extended thing, I got all these other icons that allow us to do lots of things. But I'm going to drive you to this bottom here. It says pay special. Everyone should know that this menu exists, right? So each one of these words is one of those icons we saw, but it's kind of hard if you're not familiar with the icons to know what that means. I like my habit, my work habit with copying things is if I'm just going to copy the numeric values or even the text, um, and I don't need any formulas, I select values just in case I've forgotten that I had a formula in there. And if you copy a formula in the wrong place, it gives you different numbers. So just this is a way to validate my data, is just to make sure I'm just bringing in the numbers. This is really what we want. We want to transpose the rows and columns, right? And for us in this exercise, that means we're taking the months that were the columns and we're going to put them in the rows, and we're taking the years that were the rows, we're going to put them in the columns. This is an important menu to be familiar with. You can do a lot of things when you're pasting values in Excel. And so I would encourage everyone to become familiar with this. But we're going to transpose this, and here we are. We got this data that's come to us um, like this, right? So it worked. I'm going to rather than worrying about converting the numbers and the months and the years into numbers, I'm just going to start over again, right? And so I'm moved down here below the table to row 15, um, creating some headings. CPI U is represents the CPI, the current consumer price index data for the urban areas. We can there's there's value in formatting things in ways that you can set aside when you're looking over your sheets, right? Lots of data. It kind of is appealing to our eyes to have them be differentiate it when we need to. So we're starting something new here. Rather than convert our text month and text years into a numeric value, we're just going to create a new series, right? It's just a lot easier to just start over. So the first month in this series is January 1st. Sorry, it's just January 2000. I'm just putting a one in there. It doesn't really matter for us because we're not using days. But the text format requires a day in there. So um, I'm just using the first day of each month, and I'm creating 3 months here to fill in the technique I use to fill in consecutive numbers is to type in the first three values. And then looks like I did that a little too many times, right? So Excel will tell me if I click on that that it doesn't know what that is, or it'll call it a text read is what it does. Um, you have to pay attention all the time. You have to pay attention, right? So I've highlighted these first three numbers. This little green square here, when I roll my cursor over it, it turns to a solid black plus sign. That's what I want, right? When it turns that way, I hold my left mouse button down and I run down here to um, April of 2024, right? I can go more or less, but my data goes through April of 2024. So I just want to make sure that I have a date for each of my uh, CPI values, right? So um, now we're going to just move this data and we can cut it and paste it, or we can drag it and drop it. For this purpose, dragging and dropping is more efficient than cutting and pasting. So you see I've highlighted only the CPI values. I didn't include the column values, the years or the months. Um, so I'm just gonna I picked a reasonable amount. It's about 10 columns, and I'm just gonna if I pick the whole table, it would become cumbersome. As you'll see, if I did just pick one column, it would be a lot of more work. So I just picked a reasonable amount of numbers. Again, I'm looking for the way my cursor goes. Um, Here it's a open white plus sign, but I want to look for the plus sign with the arrows on each end. And I'm going to hold this. It shows up on the edge. That's where that's shown up. I want this boundary. And I'm just going to drag it down here, right? This is the big technique, right? Just dragging data. As I'm doing this, I can check to see that January is in January and um, December's in December. The first row was January, the last row was December. I'm, adding some risk in here because I don't have any identifiers on this, right? So I'm creating some complications, potential problems. Uh, if I didn't get the entire block completed, you know, highlighted, then I could move parts of data. So as long as my first row is in January, my last row is in December, I'm probably pretty safe. But you always have to check, right? You have to validate your work. I'm just gonna go to the end here of through 2009. So far, it's all matching up. I like that. Um, so we can also do a spot check, right? So this is the value, CPI value for December of 2009 in my new format, 215.949. I can come over here and, you know, December of 2009 is 215.949. So that all worked, right? And so, to get this completed, I have to do the rest of the table. And so I'm not going to worry about that right now, but we've done it, right? We need to um, it was a lot easier for this amount of data than getting the coding to match. And so that's just it's just important to have this sort of manual movement of data in your toolbox. There's hazards you have to pay attention to, but if you're careful, it can be a really great help. that's what I needed to cover today. Next lesson will be on the index match function, and we'll tackle that soon. Thank you for watching.